As you might all already know, my name is Abdash. I'm the ex-design head and design lead of IEEE CETkr, and I'm going to take the today's session on UI basics of UI and UX design. So let me present the screen. Uh, is this visible to all of you? Can I get a few responses on the chat? Yeah, okay. So uh, I would like to begin with how many of you know what UI and UX is? Maybe a few of you do know, uh, maybe you don't know. So let me start with what it is. UI stands for user interface, while UX stands for user experience. Both of them have a lot of similarities, but they are also quite different. Uh, what you see when you open up a website is called the UI of that website. At the same time, how you use it would be in the department of UX. Let me show you a quick example. So this is the website Canva, and what you can see in front of you is the basically the UI. These buttons are all UI elements of the website, but how you use it, that is how accessible the buttons are, wherever the elements are present. That all comes under UX design. So let's begin with the most prominent design practices. In your website, you would usually use colors and fonts. This is obviously the most necessary parts. So the colors you use should be contrasting with each other. You should not use too many colors, because we will go deeper into color theory, and I will explain what happens when you use too many colors. And use fonts should be minimum. The number of fonts that you use should be a minimum. You can have variety by using the same font in bold, italics, or underline, stuff like that. You can make a lot of varieties in that way. And the general placement of UI. You should take care of where you are placing your UI elements. So I don't know how many of you might know about color theory. Basically, colors originate from the primary colors, red, blue, and yellow. Secondary colors are a combination of the primary colors. Red plus blue gives you purple or violet. Red plus yellow gives you orange. Blue plus yellow gives you green. And finally, there are tertiary colors, which are a combination of primary colors and secondary colors. So these 5 points are basically what constitute the color theory. Complementary colors, monochromatic colors, analogous colors, triadic colors, and tetradic colors. So let's begin with the color wheel. This is a very basic color wheel. The complexity of the color wheel can increase or decrease depending on the number of colors that you display on the color wheel. This is one of the basic color wheels. It contains about 12 colors. There are 12 colors on this color wheel. So complementary color will be those colors that are completely in the opposite direction of each other. In this case, red and blue are completely red and light blue are completely opposite to each other, so they complement each other. Second one is monochromatic color, in which you will take one color and decrease the saturation of that color. That is, the color will be orange, but the lightness and the darkness of the color may vary. Using a single color, it is called monochromatic color. Then we have analogous color, in which you take a set of colors that are that occur along the close to each in close proximity to each other in the color piece. In this case, the green shade is one set of analogous colors. You can take uh, you can take this blue, and this blue. These three colors would be the second set in the analogous colors. Similarly, you can take 1, 2, 3 to be the third set. You can also select these three to form one set. In this way, you can make multiple sets of colors, and a set of color is called analogous color, a set of three colors. So the next is triadic colors. Uh, this is quite simple. You take a complementary color, which is in this case red and the light blue. Then you split it in the way that it is equidistant from each other. This angle and these angles are all equal. So that will be a triadic color. In this case, it is red, dark blue, and green. And tetradic color is two complementary colors. In this case, red, light blue, purple, and green. So this is a basic placement of what you call a layout in a website. Usually the top contains the nav bar or the navigation bar. The full form of nav bar is navigation bar. In the navigation bar, you have elements like home, about, buttons like that, which help you navigate through the web page. Then you have other elements like an image or text. And then there is footer, which is the last part of the website. So let's begin with the best practices of using color. Always use as much less color as you possibly could, while still making it colorful enough that your design is not stale. That is, use as many colors as you want, but please keep it to a minimum, as minimum as possible. Because if you take too many colors, what happens is that the human brain gets overloaded with information. Whenever you are using a website, you are browsing it at your leisure time. It's not like you are focusing on integral or differentiation, anything like that. So your brain is not actually ready to do much of the processing. When you suddenly put forth a website which is really complicated, the human being will have a little bit of a hard time to understand what is where and stuff like that. So if you make too much, use too much color in your website, that will overload the visual cortex of the person who is looking at it. So take one color as the base of your design and a complementary color for highlights. For example, like we talked about complementary colors. Uh, for example, you can make a dark blue background with text that are in a lighter shade, probably yellow. So the base color should be in one shade. When I say one shade, not just this dark blue. You can take the dark blue and use the monochromatic style to take different variations of the same color. That will help more in balancing out the colors that are in the website. So make sure that your design has enough contrast that every important element of your design is visible. So why contrasting colors is necessary is because if you have two elements with almost the same color, it will be really difficult for you to make the difference. Which part is which? If you have a button which is blue color and the text is also blue color, and the background is just slightly uh, slight variation of the blue color that your button is, then your button will not be properly visible. So people won't know where to click. So the contrast should be there. Up next is text and UI design. There are two types of fonts, serif fonts and sans serif fonts. So the difference between serif font and sans serif font is quite simple. In a serif font, there is a little bit of a overhang in the text. For example, in this T, this little part is extra. That is why we call it a serif font. In the sans serif font, we have no such extra parts. So best practices for using fonts would be that use only one font if you can. At most two. Don't go more than two. Because like in the case of colors, when there is too much font, subconsciously your mind will be doing a lot more calculations than necessary, which is not really it's not needed. So use only one font, and if it is of utmost necessity for you to make your design work, then use two fonts, not more than two fonts. If you need variation in your design, use bold, italics, and stuff like that instead of using a different font. Always prefer sans serif unless your design requires to use serif font, because usually serif fonts are used for uh, professional or not professional, sorry, formal kind of work. For example, in your reports, project reports, stuff like that, you use serif fonts. An example for that is Times New Roman. And if your design is based on this formal approach, then you can use serif font. If your design doesn't necessitate you to use serif font, then opt for sans serif font. One of the best sans serif font is Roboto. It is a free font from Google. And the overall best practices for UI. Keep the UI design simple. Elements and colors should be consistent. Layout should have a purpose. And it's good to be original, but don't get carried away. So let me explain all of this. Keep your design simple. If your design is really, really complicated, it's going to make it difficult for the user to navigate through your website. So to keeping that in mind, you should always design for as if a little child can even navigate through your website. Elements and colors should be consistent. The elements and colors in the sense that text, color, images, anything that you use should have a consistent feeling. Just think about it this way. You are walking through a road and there is a clear divide such that when you cross that divide, it's raining, and before the divide, there is no rain. If you come across something like that, wouldn't it feel weird? Just like that, if you make your website in such a way that you are watching a particular layout and then you scroll down and suddenly it's completely different, you will feel that you have gone to a different website. So the elements and colors should be consistent because of that. Next is that your layout should have a purpose. Don't just throw your elements here and there. The layout should make sense. And the last point is also tied with, has a relation with the third point. It's good to be original. You can make original design, but don't get too carried away. If you are creating everything as if it's an original, then usually people will have a very hard time in understanding your uh, web design, because what happens is we have associations in our mind. If you see something like this, you can understand that that particular arrow mark refers most probably to going backwards in a page or going to the previous link, something like that. If you see something like this, you'd probably think that it's a calendar. Similarly, there are a few elements. Uh, if you see an F like this, it will probably be denoting Facebook, or similar to that. There are some things that are that have a consistent image in our mind. If you, for the sake of originality, if you destroy those, people would have a hard time in understanding what you mean and what your elements actually do. So do be original with the design, but don't get too carried away. Uh, Follow some of the criteria that is already in place. Next is overall best practices for user experience. So first point, everything should be accessible. Uh, when you create an app bar, at least within 2 clicks, you should get what you are trying to reach. If your nav bar has too many tables, in the sense that you click home, drop down menu comes. In that, there is one more element. You click it, another drop down comes. If it goes like that for 3, 4 times, then it's not really accessible. People are not going to give you give you enough time to go through all that. They will just think that this is too complicated. I will use some alternative. So everything you make should be accessible, and again everything should be consistent, because like I previously mentioned in the case of UI, when you're scrolling down and the complete image of your website is changed, that is at first your page starts with looking really modern, uh, something like that theme, and then you come down, scroll down a little bit, and suddenly everything looks really retrospective, really old. Then you will start thinking that maybe I got lost in a different website, I redirected it to something else. That would be the kind of feeling a person will get. Then use recognition and not recall, in the sense that uh, when you use a few elements, you should use elements that people can recall. I mean, recognize, not recall. Because if you use original aspects, for example, like for the case of the Facebook logo, if you use some other logo that you originally created and name it Facebook, people will have to remember that and then recall what was this about. Oh, okay, this was Facebook, so let's click that. So they will have to give up their precious time to think what this was supposed to be. Instead, if you just use the F, which they already use every day, so they will recognize that, oh yeah, this is Facebook. So if I click this, probably I will go to their Facebook link, something like that. So another example would be using the home button. For home, you can just make the design of a home, something like this. Someone who looks at this will basically understand what you are trying to imply. They will understand that this is a home. Instead, if you go for an original logo, something like this, if you do this is original, this is originally my work. No one, I haven't looked at anyone and replicated this kind of this work. But if you see this, you can say this is home. If you see this, can you say that this is home? The second one, you can't say that the second one is home in any way. So take that in mind when you are doing creating elements. Go for recognition and not for recall. You shouldn't ask your user to recall what the element was. They should just recognize it. If And another example would be that when you get into your website, uh, your website design itself should tell you what it is. Like if you go into Amazon, you can say that this is for shopping. If you go into Facebook, you can say that it is for social media. You shouldn't be like you go into Facebook and then you are confused. Is it for social media or is it for selling items? I can't understand. Something like that will be a really bad design. So recognition, not recall. And the fourth is remember you are not a user. Whenever you are making a website, you are not the user of your website. Your website is going to be used by someone else, and they need to be the one who navigates through your website. So if you are making the website, you will have a clear idea where everything is. You will have the clear idea what you mean by your website. And it might be really good from your perspective. And if you tell someone physically, then they might also think that it is a really good idea. But the problem is that when you are hosting a website, no one is there to tell them what your design was based on. So it should be intuitive when you are making it. People should be able to guess what it is just by looking at the website. So if you are making a website, try to first, before posting that website, try to check in with other people to use them and point out some of the few problems that are in the website. Maybe there is a home button that doesn't work. I mean, something that looks like a home button but isn't an button. Something like that. People might consider it a home button, but when you look at it, you will clearly remember that it is not a home button because you designed the website. So up next is the two different types of uh, websites. It's not really a hard classification. It is something that I called single page and multi-page for the ease of explaining it. So single page website would be, it will have a single long page and includes everything in the website. The website will be just a single page. If you click the navigation bar buttons, then it will scroll down and reach a different point in the same page where you have to where the necessary part of the website will be located. So if you have you are in the home page and you click the about page, it will scroll down to the last part where the about is written. If you click the contact part, it will go to that part. That is a single page website. While a multi-page website would be like the pages are split up. You can't scroll down. The home page is a single page. You are clicking contact, it is going to a completely different page, and that page has the contact information. You're clicking about, it is going to a complete different page. So that's multi-page website. So something that is used a lot, something that is predominantly used is a sort of hybrid design. So it's a mixture of both. The main page is just in a single flow. That is the main navigation part is in the single flow. You have the home page, you have the about page, you have the contact page, and the footer, which is in the single page. So if you click the navigation bar, it will scroll down and show you the stuff that you need to see. But on the other hand, some of the other pages would be in a different page. Like there might be a gallery page, which will be a completely different page. Stuff like that. So I guess that's the end of the presentation. Now I believe that you have all downloaded uh, the Adobe Xd. Can I get a response? Okay, so those who have downloaded Adobe Xd, please open Adobe Xd. Okay, so this is the opening page of Adobe XD. I hope that everyone has opened. Those who don't have Adobe XD, you can use an online website called Figma. This is Figma, and it is quite similar to Adobe XD, but there are quite a few differences that come with the fact that this is an online website. So if you log in, you can use the same thing. So those who were not able to download Adobe XD for whatever reason can use this one. So create a new untitled one or a new file. After you open a new file, these are it's basically the same as Adobe XD. Please look into that. Those who couldn't get Adobe XD. So the opening page of Adobe XD, what you have to do is select one of the pages in whatever way you need. If it is a website, you probably need a 1920 by 1080 pixel. For iPhone X, XS, 11 Pro, stuff like that. So the screen size, the artboard that you will have will depend on the screen size that you select from here. So I am going to select 1920 by 1080 pixel, which is the standard screen size. And this is basically the same as Figma. Okay, so I'll go through the things that you need to know to use Adobe XD. You will have to create a UI for yourself. A single page, a multi-page, doesn't matter. Your creativity. You can use this to design a web page. And by the end of the class, that is on the sixth day, there will be a competition for you to create a working website. And I think if I have time, I'll also teach you how to post your uh, website on GitHub so that it can be accessible via the web. So if we have time, we have extra time after teaching, we will do in any one of the days. So this is basically the artboard. You can create multiple artboards and you can prototype in this to make animations as well. These are the elements that you can create. So this is select, this is rectangle, this is ellipse, polygon, line, pen, text, creating new artboard, and zoom. So these are the basic things that you can create on the artboard. Then you have assets, you have layers, and you have plugins. Right now, we won't look at plugins. That is completely different and not really relevant for our classes. Then we have the play button here, which gives you the preview of what you have created. For that, you need to go into the prototype tab. So from prototype tab, if you press this button, it will give you how the website will look if you have created it using code. So right now it's a blank page, so there is nothing. So this is the design tab. This is a prototype tab, and we don't require the share tab for this one right now. This here is the name of your project. You can give any name you want. So it saves automatically. Uh, While you're saving, you can you have the option of saving it to the cloud or saving it to your system. I prefer saving it to the system. So whatever you prefer, you can use. So next, create something, any element. This is a rectangle, and we have a few options on the right hand side. We have the opacity, we have the blend mode, uh, we have dotted or straight line. The radius of each corner can be differentiated. Uh, we have fill, we have border, and we have shadow. Then there is background blur. And mark for export is if you opt to export the website, I mean the assets that are created for the website, then you have the option to do so. So we'll start with fill. Fill option allows you to change the color to anything that you want. Let's keep it at blue. Okay. So colors have this thing called a hex value. You will probably find have an easier time searching for colors if you are looking for a hex value, because computer screens that you use vary in quality. So when you're looking at something which is blue, it doesn't necessarily have to be blue, because uh, even in my screen, if I give something like this, one of my screens show it as blue, while the other it shows purple. So the color accuracy of a screen can vary. So use the hex colors because these are definitive. This will not change. The color of hash 1DCF 4F7 will always remain the same no matter what you see. So select fill, then you have border that defines the color of the border. Right now it is not really visible. So increase the size of the border and you will start to see what the border actually looks like. That's red is the color of the border. So usually in modern web designs, you turn off the border. In modern websites, you don't see any border. And usually you have round kind of oval shaped things for elements for buttons. So you can do that if you press one of these circles and pull it inwards, you can create a capsule kind of shape. That is how you change the shape of the element that you have placed. And then these things that I've already told you are quite similar to Photoshop and Illustrator if you have used it. Uh, but what stands different is that you can create shadow to the element much easier than it is in Photoshop and in Illustrator. So you can put the shadow, then you can define how much the shadow should come out. Value, it comes vertically. If you increase the X value, it goes in the X axis. Then you have background blur or object blur. If you click for background blur, it blurs the background, and object blur goes blurs the object. You can change the amount of blur. Okay, so you can change the amount of blur that you need, and depending on that, that would be your design. Next is the ellipse tool. If you press shift, you can create a perfect circle. If you don't press shift, it will be some other shape, regular ellipse. So now the next important thing is that everything that you create in your artboard will come under this ellipse 1, ellipse 2, rectangle. This rectangle was the first one, so the hierarchy will be maintained here. But what you need to keep in mind is that when you are designing, try to uh, name the elements such that when if you have to come back and check what element it is, you should be able to find it instantaneously. And the other another benefit is that there is an option in Adobe Xd to animate objects. So when you are animating the objects, you will have a really easy time to animate if you already know the name of the elements properly. And the next is the polygon tool, which you can create different polygons, and again you can smoothen the edges. The line tool allows you to draw lines. If you press shift, it will go in particular angles like 0, 45, 90, angles like that. And then the most useful is the pen tool. You can create any arbitrary shape you want with the pen tool. This is the most useful tool for designing the website because you can create assets that does not fall into the category of square, circle, polygon, etc. Up next is the text tool, which allows you to create text, self-explanatory. You can select what text you want to use here. I usually use Roboto. So you can increase the size of the text from here. And this is a horizontal text spacing, the space between each line. So you can increase that or decrease that as necessary. And this is the alignment of the text. I hope that you are familiar with the left alignment, center alignment, right alignment. Then the option that I just selected allows you to make the text as a single element. Instead of a text box, it turns into a text element. Then there are other functions, changing into uppercase, changing into lowercase, title case, or camel case, whichever you're familiar with. Then you have underline and strike through. Then you have opacity, changing, which will change the opacity of your sample text. And then you have a blend mode. This is a bit complicated, so we will leave it for later. You don't really require blend mode unless you are doing something really risky. The fill can change the color of the text. The border is usually off. If you require, you can also select a border and give it some color. Usually it is turned off. And then you have shadow that can give your text shadow that you require. Text shadow is one of the best ways to create contrast between two similar colors. So let me give you an example for that. Let's first delete everything else except for the text. There's a sample text here. Then we will create a background. Okay, so now when we created the background, everything sort of disappeared. So that is why the hierarchy is important. The hierarchy here is really important because the rectangle that we created right now is on top. So what you need to do is drag it down and the hierarchy. So you will see that the sample text is on top of rectangle. Now, in the fill part, you have a little eyedropper. You click that and select whatever color you need. You will get this of that element. So as you can see now, if we didn't use the shadow, you can't tell the difference because it's the same color. The background and the text, it is the same color, so you can't really tell the difference. But if you do use the shadow, you can tell a slight difference. This is also a good way to use contrast. You can also give color to the shadow if you wish. That depends on your design. So that is the absolute basics of using Adobe Xd. I think I've covered everything that is, yeah, the last of stuff. You can use these options to align it with your art mode, basically. So this would be the vertically top alignment, vertically centered alignment, vertically bottom alignment. And this is left alignment, right alignment, and the middle one is center alignment. That helps you to align your elements with the art. So now we'll design a website. There will be no talking on my part. I'll just be doing a basic design. You can watch or you can do it along with me. So we will create a basic website design in 5 minutes. By this time, if you have any doubts, you can ask. I'll respond to that. Does anyone not have any doubts?
I see that no one is having any doubts so far. I hope i- if anyone is having doubts, they may ask it in the chat box now, or you are free to ask it in the WhatsApp group. Now Abhilash can move forward. Hello, Abhilash.
Yeah. Hello.
You've been mute for some time, and they were asking. Okay,
My microphone isn't turned off.
okay, carry on.
Wait, didn't you hear what I said? Hello?
Nope, nope.
It's not audible?
No, it wasn't audible for some time,
Like, uh,
like
wait,
about 5 minutes, not
I
3 minutes or
haven't
so.
been talking anything since 5 minutes. I already said that I'll stop talking right now and you can ask any doubts that you have while I show creating a website.
Yeah, I see that, but okay.
I didn't have anything to talk uh, when I am creating this website. I wanted to show you how to create a basic website. This we will be creating this particular website by the end of the class. So wait, you didn't miss anything before that, right?
No, no, it was perfectly audible.
Yeah, then it's fine. I haven't been talking for some time.
Abhilash, there's a guy with a doubt.
Okay, so what is the doubt? What makes it different than Photoshop? It is also doing its function. Yeah, so the difference is basically that this is kind of like a vector graphics. In Photoshop, you can do all that stuff here. It is made to lift heavier weights, that is for rasterized images. On the other hand, this is really lightweight and you don't require as much graphics that you require as much RAM to run Adobe Xd as you need to uh, run Photoshop. That's one of the differences. And the second difference is that you can animate or prototype all the stuff in here the way you really, the way you require it to, in a way that you can't do in Photoshop. I hope that makes it clear for you. Okay, so second out, how did you create the new artboard below? I missed it. Yeah, so I didn't create a new artboard. What I did is increase the height of the artboard. There is a component section in this part. I hope that you can see my mouse. In this part, I started with a 1920 by 1080. So I simply just inputted 1080 times 3 and it increased it 3 times. So there is 3 equal pieces. And I only put a line to divide and so that I can see where the division occurs. So I put a line there. Okay. So you can to create a new artboard, you can select this option. There is an artboard option. After you select that, you can create a new artboard like this. You don't really require it. A keyboard shortcut that you can keep it in mind is if you press Control and 0 on the numpad, you can focus it back to your screen in center. That will be a handy tool to use. And you can use Control plus your mouse scrolling to zoom in and zoom out instead of using the zoom option from here. Okay, there are other questions. Could you repeat the option for Zoom? Yeah, I'll put it in the chat. So it is control plus mouse scroll that is used to zoom in and zoom out. The second question is how to copy the same boxes. Uh, to copy any element, you hover over the element on your keyboard, click the object and drag it. Leave the object, then leave the alt button. Then you can create the same copy of the element that you want to create. So does any our time is coming to a close. Does anyone has any doubt? If you have any doubt, you can ask as soon as possible. How to import vectors into the I didn't really understand. Where are you importing it from? Are you saying how to import vectors from outside of Adobe XD as assuming that that's how you are saying, uh, you have an option here to click import and select whichever file you want. How can I add them into the UI? Like I can so yeah. So you have the import option, like I said, the import option. You can select some images and then you can it comes onto the screen. You can put it wherever you want. Another option is just opening whatever it is, wherever the file is, and clicking it and dragging it in. Both of the ways work. It's quite simple. How did you rotate the triangle and merge it? Yeah, I didn't really merge it. I used path, let me show you how. That would be a easier way to do it. So these are the elements. Let's give them some color. So these are the elements. What I did is I placed the rectangle over the circle, then selected first the rectangle, then the circle, and I used subtract. So what happens is that the rectangle gets subtracted from the circle. After which, select the circle. If you go on to the top part, you can see the cursor changes, and you can click there and rotate it. Then I put it closer to the semicircle. That's how I did it. Like this. Hope that helps you. So this is basically it. Now you have a submit here. So basically, this will be the website that we create. There will be a nav bar which will come along with you when you scroll down. These will be icons, kind of icons like a shopping website has. Pages there. There will be an about tab, and we will give some sort of text there. And there will be a contact section in which you have to input your email, your name, your email ID, and anything that you have to say, the text, and then clicking submit. It will not have the back end part, only the front end part. And this will be the geolocation that you want to share. Okay, that wraps up today's session. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you tomorrow. Thank you.